Hey yo, football fans, it's another great year. Fantasy football fiends, grab your beer. Giving you the best draft tips for your picks. Starts and sits to the waiver wire fix. From my drafts galore to stats that's hardcore. Triple F does it all, have y'all screaming more. So sit back, relax, let the experts prevail. JT Magnum, Siggy guns never fail. What's up, fantasy football fans? My name is JT Magnum. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Fiend Stardom Sit-em Show. This is week 3, and I am welcoming back my co-host, my partner in crime, Siggy. Say what's up, buddy.
What up?
Siggy just had his baby, and he's got some time on his hands. He's going to do the Fantasy Football Show with us this week, and I'm excited. But we're going to get right into it, though, because there's a lot to talk about, and we're trying to make this as short as possible so you guys don't have to sit here for an hour and watching us. But right into the injury report, Tony Romo's hurt. He's gone, what is it, 10 to 12 weeks, I believe?
I think 8 to 10 they're saying because he didn't do the surgery.
Oh, okay. Well, 8 to 10. Drew Brees is apparently hurt. We're not sure if he's out yet. He's going to seek a second opinion from what we've read so far. Monitor that if you have Drew Brees as your quarterback. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, from what I hear, is out 2 weeks. That's the tight end for Tampa Bay.
I heard 4 to 6 weeks, actually.
There you go. Monitor that situation. If you picked him up off the waiver wire, you picked him up recently because of a couple good games that he's had. Eric Decker, who had a great game last night, hurt his knee. Monitor that situation. Not sure if he's playing or not sure if he's not playing or if it's just a tweak or anything. Matthew Stafford hurt himself. He said he's playing. We'll see if he's playing this weekend against Denver. Jeremy Hill did not get hurt, but his feelings were hurt when he was benched for Giovanni Bernard because he fumbled twice. So monitor that situation because there could be a possible benching there, or not benching, but unseating at the starting position. T.Y. Hilton looked like he hurt his knee a little bit in that game last night as well. He was pulled out of the game late. Jason Witten, from what I hear, is going to be out maybe 1 to 2 weeks. Check that situation. Make sure he's not, all of a sudden decides to play or something happens. But from what I hear, it's 1 to 2 weeks. So I would look at that situation. I think it's he has 2 sprained ankles. 2. That is just, and I think he has hurt ribs as well. So monitor that situation. But we're gonna get into the rewind portion. Siggy wasn't here last week.
Oh, actually, you did forget a couple of them. Eddie Lacy apparently is hurt. Also monitor him. And Coleman for the Falcons is hurt.
Oh, Tevin Coleman is gone, actually, for maybe another 2 weeks, I believe. I forgot about him, but I believe it's 2 weeks for him. But monitor him as well if you have him in your lineup. But Devontae Freeman is an excellent pickup and an excellent pickup for him, especially in that offense with the way they're passing the ball around. But we're getting into the rewind portion. Siggy was not here last week, but I was, and we're going to get right into it. For the starts, the good start of the week last week for me was Matt Ryan. He got 18.42 points. These are all according to NFL.com standard scoring. The worst start I had last week was Marlon Brown, 1.20 points last week. He sucked. The best sit I had last week was Alex Smith. I actually had some good ones last week, but Alex Smith was the best one, 5.14 points. And my worst sit of the week was sitting Allen Robinson, who scored 27.50 points and had a couple touchdowns in a great game against the Dolphins. And here I'm thinking he was going to suck last week. So bad week for me last week fantasy-wise, but we'll step up our game this week. Now we're going to get into Adam and Bag'em. This is the new one where we tell you about a couple waiver wire pickups that you might be on the fence about and whether you should add them or bag them. So, Siggy, who's your first Adam or Bag'em?
I'm going to say Travis Benjamin out of Cleveland Browns. This is somebody you want to add for sure to your arsenal. Manziel looks like he solidified himself as the starter for now. I don't foresee, even when McCown does get cleared, taking that spot away just because the fans want to see him play anyways, and he's playing pretty good. And the person that he's been throwing to deep, every 50-yard bombs, 60-yard bombs, is Travis Benjamin. And not only is Travis Benjamin making plays on offense, he's also doing great on special teams. This is somebody that if you have points, especially points for reception, return yardage, stuff like that, this is a guy that can get, I think he had like 267 total yards this past week and 2 touchdowns or 1 touchdown. I'm not sure what it was. I think it was 2 actually.
He caught 2 bombs.
2 bombs. And the thing is, Manziel, he might not throw that often, to him, but this is somebody that is in the slot and he's beating out linebackers, and he's just super fast, and these linebackers aren't going to stop him. So he's somebody that obviously is getting rapport with him, and he's just going to go ahead and continue that going forward, especially with everybody talking about him. He's going to be he's going to be more of a role in the offense. So, Adam, this guy is just good.
Yeah, my first one is Dexter McCluster. Don't be fooled by this one yet because Bishop Sankey is still the man in Tennessee. Dexter McCluster, though, he basically ran for 98 yards, but against a horrible Cleveland defense. And I expected Sankey to do it. Unfortunately, it was McCluster who did it. But I would say bag him. He's not worth the start yet, not worth the running back option yet, unless all of a sudden Sankey gets hurt. Who's your next one?
I can see that. My other Adam is Matt Jones, running back for Washington Redskins. This guy had a coming out party. Now, this is the funny thing. They had split carries pretty even. 19, I think, for Jones, 18 for Alfred Morris. And I believe Matt Jones had 126 rushing yards. Morris only had like 50-something. So this is a guy that looked like clearly he established himself as the red zone guy, the goal line back, young, fresh. Alfred Morris, what he used to be with his rookie year, pretty much Matt Jones is looking like him already. And going forward with this big game, his coming out party, he's going to be splitting carries at minimum at this point. But what makes him a good play to keep, anyways, to add, is the fact that he did look like he is now the go-to goal line back. And obviously touchdowns is what you want in fantasy football.
Yeah, my second guy is Crockett Gillmore, who, believe it or not, is still available in a bunch of fantasy football leagues as a tight end, and the guy's been killing it.
All over the place.
Yeah, because I guess a lot of people, which even I included, thought Max Williams would be the guy. And I thought, Dennis Pitta's not back yet, but I thought Max Williams would be that guy, and it turns out this guy is a stud. He's playing well at tight end.
Yep.
Joe Flacco seems like he's very comfortable throwing to him. And I say, Adam while you can. If you have a chance and you're first in that waiver wire and you need a tight end, get him fast or just get him for trade bait if you can get him. Find a way to get him because Joe Flacco loves tight ends and he throws to him a lot. So, let's get into the waiver wires. Who's your 3 waiver wire picks of the week?
Well, obviously, I talked about 2 of them already, Matt Jones and Travis Benjamin. And Brandon Weeden was my third one. And I'm going to talk about Matt Jones again. The reason why you want to keep him or add him on the waiver wires this week is because even if he's splitting carries right now, eventually the Washington Redskins are going to blow it up because I don't foresee them being great going forward. And if they are, I think he'll be a major part of it. And if not, then they're just going to go ahead and let these rookies and everybody else play, all the younger players. And you're going to see Matt Jones just rack up a lot of yards going forward. So this is somebody that if you're hesitant to start him because he's splitting carries, eventually, especially during the playoff run, and et cetera, this is somebody that's going to be a major part of your team.
Yeah, my 3 are also happen to be Travis Benjamin, the Redskins defense, and which probably nobody has, and Rashard Matthews, receiver from the Miami Dolphins. And we're going to talk about Rashard Matthews. Miami just can't seem to figure out which wide receiver they like each week. But Rashard Matthews has been consistent even from last year on to this year. It seems like they want Jarvis Landry to be the man, but it seems like defenses are really keying on Jarvis Landry because they know he's pretty much the playmaker of that group. And Rashard Matthews seems to be the guy that's benefiting from that. So if you have not that great of a lineup for wide receivers, you need a guy to step up as your wide receiver 2 or 3, or maybe a flex play. Rashard Matthews might be that guy for you. So let's get into the stardom.
Notable mention.
Go ahead.
Notable mention on the waiver wire pickup, since we didn't mention, is Dion Lewis, running back for New England Patriots. This is somebody that I know the Patriots like to rotate running backs, but it looks like he's established up as the Shane Vereen kind of role. PPR leagues especially, this is someone that's going to get you 8, 9, 10 receptions, and he can get a lot of yards on the ground. So pick him up.
Yeah, I mean, I think people after the first week they saw him, what he did against Pittsburgh. I think a lot of people trying to snatch him up, a little bit, and then last week he really put on a display. So
yeah.
Waiver wire, let's get into the stardom and sit-em portion of the show. This is the starts. Who's your 3 quarterback starts of the week?
I got Cam Newton, I got Carson Palmer and Brandon Weeden. Yes, and I'm going to go and talk about Brandon Weeden. The Dallas Cowboys obviously are in trouble without Tony Romo and Des Bryant, but they're playing against the Falcons, and the Falcons is a defense that doesn't scare anybody. The Cowboys have a great offensive line. I don't know if anybody saw that, aside from Romo getting hit. but the line is good, and Weeden, with just the limited time he played, threw for 76 yards and a touchdown. And in a full game, this is somebody that I think is going to be a dink and dunk kind of quarterback with this team, especially since they're probably going to rely more on the run. However, and even with Witten hurt, Escobar was somebody that I think was going to do good anyways with Weeden, because that's usually what happens. The backup quarterback comes in, and you see these second, third, depth chart players do better. He's going to have a good rapport with him. Going forward, I think the Cowboys are actually in decent shape, especially against the Falcons. I think they'll get a lot of points, and somebody, in my opinion, can shock people with 275 yards and 2 touchdowns at least.
Yeah, my 3 guys are Ryan Fitzpatrick, Cam Newton, and Andy Dalton, and I'll talk about Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton has been playing great quarterback play for the Bengals, and what I mean by great quarterback play, he's not turning the ball over this year, and he's starting to step up his game, and he's getting those balls to AJ Green, he's getting them to Marvin Jones, and I think part of it has to do with Marvin Jones being back as well. Marvin Jones is an excellent receiver opposite of A.J. Green, and also with Tyler Eifert being in there, he's playing good. He's playing the tight end position the way it's supposed to be played there. Unlike Jermaine Gresham, who was there dropping balls last year and not having being hurt and injured like that. But Tyler Eifert has definitely helped Andy Dalton to elevate his game this year, and I love him this week against Baltimore in that horrible secondary that the Raiders torched last week. So who's your running back?
Didn't I say in our rankings show that Andy Dalton was going to prove himself this year? I told you that. I told you.
Yeah, well, he should. I mean, he's got weapons.
Yeah, he does.
Who's your running back starts?
Running back starts C.J. Anderson, Doug Martin, and Isaiah Crowell. And I'll go ahead and talk about C.J. Anderson because a lot of people are hitting the panic button already. This is a game where I'm having him as a start because this is it. Apparently, it's come down to where the Broncos even said that C.J. Anderson is going to be the starter for now and that he has a couple of games, apparently, to prove himself. Well, there's not a better matchup than this one he's going on right now. The Broncos are playing against the Lions, I believe it was. And I think that C.J. Anderson, hopefully he's gotten over his toe injury, etc. this week with treatment. He has to prove that he's going to be the main guy, and I think he will. I don't think he's going to want Hillman to be the guy. I know a lot of people are saying go ahead and play Hillman also, but if both of them are playing, I think C.J. Anderson will still get the bulk of the carries this last game. If he fails, I say go get Hillman and keep him the rest of the way. But for this game, I think C.J. Anderson might actually be the man.
For my running backs, I have Latavius Murray, Melvin Gordon, and that boy you were just talking about, Ronnie Hillman. I say pick him up while you can because C.J. Anderson is just not playing well. But we're going to talk about Latavius Murray, and I've been saying it all along. If you have a running back going against the Cleveland Browns, start them. They cannot stop the run. They haven't done it yet. They haven't done it since last year. They can't stop the run. They haven't done anything to shore up the running game or to the run defense. And you saw Dexter McCluster ran for 98 yards against them last week. Dexter McCluster, he's like 120 pounds soaking wet. Like that is who ran for 98 yards against him. So look for Latavius Murray, who is a speedster, and for the Raiders to get their ground game going, especially with a Cleveland defense that's going to be keying on the pass. I love Latavius Murray this week. Who's your wide receiver starts?
Julian Edelman, Larry Fitzgerald, and Dante Moncrief. And I'm going to talk about Moncrief. Obviously, we talked about on the beginning of the show some injury support. T.Y. Hilton is back, but he looked gimpy. He really did. And Moncrief looked pretty good. And now I believe they're playing against the Titans, who pretty much got destroyed, I think, this past week. So I have a feeling that Moncrief is going to have a huge game, regardless of who's playing. Andre Johnson just looks lost out there. I don't know what's wrong with him this season. And T.Y. Hilton, like I said, is going to be gimpy. Even if he plays and suits up, Moncrief is going to be the target because Andrew Luck is pissed. He's mad about the Jets whooping up on him. He's mad about the Bills whooping up on him. And now he has a Titans soft defense that I think is going to finally have some, production for Luck, but more specifically, a huge game for Moncrief, even bigger than he had this past week.
Yeah, my wide receiver starts are Larry Fitzgerald as well, James Jones and Eric Decker if he plays. And I love James Jones. This guy, he was just on the street. The Raiders cut him. The Giants cut him. Like, nobody wanted him. And Aaron Rodgers welcomes him back with open arms when Jordy Nelson gets hurt. And look what he does. He's already got 3 touchdowns since he's been back in a couple games. So kudos to James Jones. And he beat Richard Sherman deep. Kudos to James Jones.
Yeah, he's like the Chris Carter. He's like the new Chris Carter, only catches touchdowns.
Yeah, the guy is good for at least a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers is comfortable throwing him the ball. He will go up and get it. He is and playing against that suspect Kansas City secondary who apparently was supposed to be really good, but they're giving up a lot of yardage in the air so far. And with Aaron Rodgers, playing against him, he's going to throw to everybody. And James Jones, he's going to benefit. So who's your tight end starts?
I can see it. Charles Clay, Ladarius Green, and Crockett Gillmore. We talked about him already. I'm going to talk about Charles Clay. One, the Bills have been throwing to him. They're looking at the tight ends to throw. Tyrod Taylor is somebody that likes to use everybody, it looks like. But Charles Clay also has another motivation. He's playing against the Dolphins, his ex-team. So normally you see these kind of things happen where the player plays, except for DeMarco Murray against the Cowboys last week.
Yeah, oh my goodness, that was bad.
Oh, the memes were hilarious. I love those memes. But anyways, Charles Clay, I think, is going to have a big game against the Dolphins.
Yeah, my 3 tight ends starts are Jordan Reed, Ladarius Green, and Jordan Cameron. We'll talk about Ladarius Green. Here's a very athletic tight end. And playing against the Minnesota Vikings, they have an excellent secondary, but they're suspect when it comes to defending tight ends. They don't have the linebackers. They have some tall linebackers. They're okay, but they're not the best in coverage. So look for Ladarius Green to get off, especially with Phillip Rivers throwing him the ball. So I really like him this week. And Phillip Rivers is starting to get really comfortable with Ladarius Green now, kind of Antonio Gates-like. But when Antonio Gates comes back, man, there's going to be tough with defending both of them. But I like Ladarius Green this week. Who's your must-starts defense?
I have the Carolina Panthers, I have the Houston Texans, and I have the Denver Broncos. I'm not going to talk about the Broncos. Stafford is not playing well because of his injury or whatnot. I'm not sure. He's saying he's going to play, but I just have a feeling that if he's not 100%, then the whole team suffers. And the Denver Broncos defense, while it's not spectacular, I have a feeling being the Sunday Night Football game, everybody's going to step up more. And if Stafford is not, playing to his level of play, that's just bad news for the Lions. And I just have a feeling they're going to get destroyed.
Yeah, I have the Broncos defense as well. They're dominant, man. They're just so dominant on the line of scrimmage, and they have linebackers that can cover and a great secondary. It's just, that's a tough team. The Panthers versus the Saints, and the Jets versus the Eagles, and I'll talk about the Panthers. Drew Brees in that offense right now is just, they're not balling whatsoever. They can't get anything going. They said they're going to establish the run. What do? They still pass the ball. They said they're gonna stop, airing it out so much. What do? They still pass the ball. And they have it just seems like they don't have, their offensive line is not protecting Brees. It seems like the receivers aren't getting open. The running backs are fumbling the ball or just not getting through the holes, or they're playing too many running backs where you never know which one. They can't get any kind of rhythm going. And the Panthers defense is playing very well, especially the first 2 games. And Cam Newton always has a great day against New Orleans, especially being at home. Drew Brees just can't play on the road. So I love Carolina against them this week on defense. Let's get into the sit-em portion. The sit-em portion where who's your top 3 quarterback sits of the week?
I have Sam Bradford, Derek Carr, and Joe Flacco. I'm not going to talk about Bradford. The Jets defense looks pretty good. And then this is something that I thought would happen, that they would have a great, pass, attack or defensive pass, good defense. And with Revis, obviously, and Cromartie has hurt himself last week, he was gimpy and still did good. And Bradford has been playing horrible with really no excuse. So you add the combination of them not playing well, and then you have a Jets defense that looks like it's playing really good, especially against the pass. And now all of a sudden, the Eagles' high-flying offense doesn't look like it's going to be able to do anything at the Jets at New York. On top of that, they're playing on the road, so I don't see Bradford doing much. If Luck couldn't do it, I don't see Bradford doing it. I could be surprised, of course, because I'm a Jets fan. They could shock me and be back to being the Jets, but for now, Bradford is the sit.
Yeah, my sits are Matthew Stafford, Sam Bradford, and Phillip Rivers. And I'll talk about Stafford. Like I said, that Denver secondary is sick. That Denver secondary is really, really good. You saw them intercepting passes last week. They're a dominant bunch, and Stafford being a little bit injured, a little bit hurt, and on top of that, that pass rush coming at him, he's liable to make a lot of mistakes, and I don't like him this week. I don't think he's a good play this week whatsoever. Who's your sits for running backs?
I have Lamar Miller, Trey Mason, and TJ Yeldon. I'm going to talk about Lamar Miller. They're playing the Bills. The Bills, they might give up some dink and dunk, catches to running backs, but he's not that kind of guy, at least not anymore, it looks like. And I don't think he's going to have a really good game on the ground rushing. So I look for the game to be an offensive, I do think it'll be a high-scoring game, honestly, even though the defenses are good on both sides. It is a divisional game. They usually show the crowd what they want, which is a lot of offense, but it's not going to be on the ground. So Lamar Miller, I don't see him doing anything.
I also have Lamar Miller as a sit, along with Alfred Morris, who had a couple bad games against the Giants last year, and Mark Ingram at the Panthers. And I'll talk about Mark Ingram. I was just talking about it. The Saints aren't using him, and when they did use him, he did fumble once last week, but they're not going back to him. You got to feed that guy the ball. They're not doing it. And they're on top of that. They don't know who they're putting in there running back to pass to, what they're doing. It just seems like they're just inept on offense. And against Carolina, you can't be like that. And I don't think Mark Ingram's a good play, especially in Carolina. So who's your wide receiver sits of the week?
I got Calvin Johnson, Brandon Cooks, and Jordan Matthews. Obviously some big names up there, Jordan Matthews and Calvin Johnson. Especially I'll talk about Calvin Johnson. I just do not think Matthew Stafford is going to have a good game. I think he is injured. I think you're seeing that the Lions offense this last week didn't look that, impressive. And I think Calvin Johnson will be the one that suffers the most, because if he is sore and hurt and he's not being able to throw the deep ball, that's something that Calvin Johnson needs, because he's usually somebody that can go over the top, or if you throw it one-on-one, he wants to jump up and, snag that ball at the air. But if it's not there and he's throwing lame ducks, that's bad news for Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, my wide receiver sits are Calvin Johnson, Steve Smith Sr., and Brandon Cooks as well. And I'll talk about Steve Smith Sr. Cincinnati Bengals are playing very good defense in the air, especially against with their pass defense. They are just looking very good. Steve Smith Sr. happens to be really the only wide receiver on that team. Look for them to try to take him out of the game, especially since he was the only one that got like 150 yards receiving last week for the Ravens. But look for him to be taken out of the game, especially with the way Cincinnati plays defense. So not a good play next week. Who's your tight end sits?
Eric Ebron, Vernon Davis, and Jordan Cameron. Now, I'm going to talk about Cameron this time because I was going to talk about Ebron. We already talked about Stafford, though. You had him on your start, and I have him on my six. Jordan Cameron, he looked like he got hurt in that game. So I got a feeling that that's going to carry over. And I don't trust that Tannehill is going to be using him as much as I would hope. So I think it is going to be an offensive show, and I think he could be somebody that can play a good role. But I think they're going to be asking him to be blocking more.
Yeah, my tight end sits are Eric Ebron, Larry Donnell, and Heath Miller. I'll talk about Larry Donnell. Larry Donnell going against Washington. He hasn't been getting much targets lately anyways, but he's had some success here and there against the Redskins, but the Redskins defense has been playing so well that I just don't like him, especially. I think they're going to go to Beckham a lot. They're going to go to the wide receivers a lot more, and I don't see Larry Donnell as a good fit or a good start either this week. So who's your defensive sits?
I got Detroit, I got Miami, and I got Green Bay. And I'll talk about Green Bay because Green Bay's actually been playing pretty good. Kansas City Chiefs, Green Bay, that's a game on Monday night. I just have a feeling. Usually Monday night games are high scoring, except for this last one with the Jets and the Colts. I just think that Green Bay and Kansas City are going to be in a dogfight that's more on the offense, show I can prove you, who's better here. Aaron Rodgers obviously going to have a big game, and I think that means Kansas City's going to be playing from behind. And with that, they can score. They're very capable of scoring this year.
Yeah, my defensive sits are the Cowboys, the Browns, and the Lions. And sit the Cowboys against, I know their defense has been doing well. People are going to pick them up. They're excited. But you're playing the Falcons this week. Good luck trying to stop Julio Jones and Roddy White and that run defense and Matt Ryan and the way he's delivering the ball. It's going to be very, very difficult this week. So I do not like the Cowboys at all whatsoever this week. So who's the last part of the show, the sleepers? Who's your three sleepers?
Brandon Whedon, David Johnson, and Deion Lewis. I'm going to talk about David Johnson. Look, Chris Johnson might be named the starter, but it's clear that David Johnson is the fresher back with the better legs and the better playmaking abilities. I think Bruce Arians saw that. He's old school. He has that I like to play the veterans, not the rookies mentality. But then David Johnson went out there and proved that he's very capable of carrying the load. And if I believe Ellington is going to be out again, and if he is, I just have a feeling that David Johnson, as a backup, because he might not start, is going to have a really good game this week.
For my sleepers, I have Kirk Cousins, T.J. Yeldon, and Corey Brown. I'll talk about Corey Brown. He's the receiver for the Panthers. They have nobody really at wide receiver doing well. Funches has advertised like any kind of bit of anything. Ted Ginn has gotten open here and there, but Corey Brown seems to be the main guy that Cam Newton likes to throw to. And with that New Orleans secondary being not good at all whatsoever, they have, and I believe Keenan Lewis has been out. Look for him to get a lot more targets, especially in Carolina, and going deep to him and things like that. I like Corey Brown this week. So that does it, guys, for the Stardom and Sit 'em show. Let us know in the comment section what you think for starts and sits. Let us know what you got about our picks. For the rankings now, they're going to be on the website on Wednesday. That along with more in-depth Stardom and Sit 'em for you. And you can follow us on Twitter at JT_Magnum816 and Siggy V at Siggy V on Twitter. And yeah, that's it. Feel free to keep asking us questions all throughout the week. We'll try to get to them the best we can. We'll try to get to the comment section as best we can. But that is it for now. So best of luck in your fantasy football week this week. If we messed up on any injury reports or injuries or people not playing or anything, just go to the website, check on there to see if there's updated rankings or things like that. Because we do this show on Tuesday and all the injury reports aren't out yet. We try to get it out early as possible, as quick as we can for you guys to get you guys the best, quick, set for your lineups and things like that. All right. So for JT Magnum, Siggy Guns, we out, y'all. Peace.